Good morning. This is the Blaine's World webcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and you get more information about our show and previous shows on our website, which is kind of behind me, blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week, we focus on positive news and information about both people and organizations in Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And to that end, it's my pleasure to introduce my two guests today. They are Melinda Bullen, who is Executive Director, and Amanda Hunsucker, Director of Programs at On Track Financial Education Counseling, for being my guest today. Welcome aboard, folks. You can wave to all your friends and friends who are watching this. Okay, that's Melinda up top and Amanda at the bottom. And I'll start off by saying that I'm at a disadvantage, that I don't know much about your backgrounds. This is kind of the first time we're meeting. So let me start off by asking, I guess, Melinda, the question is, as a child, you grew up where?
Oh, well, it's good to be here. As a child, I grew up in Longboat Key, Florida, which is just outside of Bradenton or Sarasota.
As a child growing up, did you know you always wanted to be the executive director of a financial education and counseling firm? Was that your goal in life?
No, I can
find
tell
that hard
you,
to believe.
when I was little, I thought I would be an archaeologist, an astronomer, or an Episcopal priest. And
Okay.
here I am, an executive director. Who knew?
Well, I thought you were going to say, and so you did all those in previous life, and now you're into this.
That's right.
But what that's kind of a wide range of things you could have become. What got you away from doing those three things?
I think in a way I am doing them. My aged wisdom has allowed me to see that, like, even though I'm not an archaeologist, like, the deepest value I carry is a value for discovery. And I'm not an Episcopal priest, but I really love reducing harm and shepherding people in positive ways. And I'm a believer in awe. And so, I'm not an astronomer, but I love living in a way of awe. So I'm doing all of them, Blaine,
Totally,
even as an executive director.
that is so cool, though. I'm trying to think. I have to remember that in terms of, if that's my background. Somehow I can tie it into. I want to be a sports reporter, and so I don't know how to tie into whatever I'm doing. But you did that's as well as anybody I've ever seen it. You've been now with On Track Financial Education and Counseling. How long have you been with them for?
Yeah, so I am a newbie. I actually just started about 9 months ago as the executive director, following a longtime legacy director. So it's been a really exciting time.
And the person you followed, her name again was that, and how long was she with the organization?
She was with the organization for 30 years and led it for 20. Her name's Celeste Collins, and she retired. She's very beloved, and many people who follow nonprofit work in Asheville will know that name for sure. And I'm lucky enough to follow her and work with the incredible staff that she led for so long.
Okay, that's quite a time to be in charge of a nonprofit. And even though it's very nice to follow her, that's a tough job, Amanda, to follow, in that it's easy to follow if you follow somebody who's been fired or been terrible and whatnot. And, but to follow somebody who's there a long time, that's quite a tribute to that person. Amanda, the same kinds of questions with you. You've been now with the organization a little bit longer than Melinda, is that correct?
Yeah, I'll be coming up on 9 years this summer.
9 years. Same question, first time we met. Where'd you grow up as a child?
In the Hickory, North Carolina area, so not too far away.
Okay, and I don't know if you can match what Melinda had to say in terms of her desires and goals, but did you do the same thing too? Did you always know you wanted to be with a financial education and counseling firm as a child?
I did not. I can't match her answer, but I'm going to try. I thought I would be a teacher when I was growing up. And as a child, I didn't realize you could be a teacher of adults. And the day I realized that was magical. And so that's kind of the thread that I've brought into my career at On Track, because we do so much education and support around adults who are learning new things and experiencing new things.
Well, you said it's so true, because I remember too, I started out as a teacher, and I taught, at one time high school students and freshmen in college. And I decided I did that for a large part of my life, but I wanted to teach adults. I prefer teaching the older students more, and because they were more motivated, I guess, and they want to be doing what they're doing. So prior to coming on with On Track, what else had you done professionally?
Well, two big areas of work for me have been in supporting parents, teaching parenting classes, teaching developmental skills to parents. And then my other longest career stint was outside of Atlanta, working with refugees who were newly resettled by the US government to the country and who were building skills like how to do grocery shopping in America, how to take the bus, how does money and paychecks and all the things work. So a lot of those kind of come together too. And I always have a soft spot for the kiddos in my heart. And so I like to think of my work supporting adults as a step towards supporting kiddos that may be in their family too.
And what's so cool is you're also teaching all the time in whatever you do, and I guess so does Melinda. But just to what you had said back to it, so you worked with for folks to come in from foreign countries, right? And either done a program or an organization, or somehow that story rings true. I spoke to somebody at length, could have been a mutual friend of ours. We talked about Jane Hatley. And Jane, if you're listening, we can have you listen. Did she ever work with that population as well?
I don't know. Jane's had such a long legacy career. I don't know everything she's ever done, but she had a long career at Self-Help Credit Union. And one of their core mission and values is to support customers who don't have access in the traditional financial institutions. And so that comes up in a couple of places. For the refugees that I work with, they didn't have a credit score because often they were coming from countries where that just wasn't even a concept. And so I think that would be very near and dear to the mission of self-help. And the same for so many of our neighbors in Western North Carolina from all sorts of backgrounds, whether they've never built credit, it's been a long time since they had any credit, or maybe they've had some slip ups and some negative information on their credit. That's a place that On Track partners with self-help to help folks rebuild towards future growth and future goals, because credit scores and credit reports are so important in our society. And they're also kind of mystifying. It can be hard to know what steps to take and what to invest in. So that's something that we really pride ourselves on at On Track, is being able to walk side by side with folks who are working in that area, among several others, to get a plan of action in place and move through it.
And thank you for mentioning that, because yeah, that was the tie-in. I remember we had a whole discussion about this. First time I had ever spoken to somebody who worked with this population to bring them up to a par. Let me go back to then Melinda then. So you're relatively new to the organization, but for the folks who aren't familiar with the organization, On Track Financial Education and Counseling, I love the name too. It's just like a perfect name for it.
Yeah.
What's it all about?
Yeah. Well, the thing about On Track WNC that everyone should know is that we've been around for 50 years. It actually was started in 1973 in Asheville. And essentially, it's a nonprofit with its objective in helping people achieve their money and housing goals through financial education and counseling. So we have a full staff of educators and counselors who work one-on-one, either in person or even virtually, across Western North Carolina, and helping them think through a wide variety of money questions. And the thing I think is really important to think about is that everyone can use that kind of education. The truth is, most people aren't learning those skills in schools. And many folks are learning the lessons of money, usually through hard moments. How many folks got a credit card in college, for example, and learned that hard lesson of how to manage credit cards, or maybe bought a car that was too expensive? Or maybe there's just been a generational challenge that they need to overcome, and lifting the veil on how to do budgeting 101 is one opportunity for that. So it's really an exciting, unique, and important series of skills and education and counseling opportunities we offer.
Now at On Track, how many folks are employed there?
Yeah, we have 14.
14 full-time staffers doing the work you're doing. And what you said is so on target, because as you said it, the skills we never learned in school. And I never learned, 4/5 of stuff. We learned, no offense to US history. We studied US history, same thing too, 7 times in a row. I never got that. But nobody ever teaches you budgeting 101 or credit card 101 or something.
That's
and
right.
so people then find On Track, or you find them, And so what kinds of things do you do then to improve the educational literacy of these folks,
Mhm.
the financial literacy? Yeah.
Yeah, so we have truly a wide variety of classes that folks can attend. Like I said, both in person, virtually. We even take classes out into the community. So our services are available to folks in 18 counties in Western North Carolina. And we think about who are our clients. I just want to be really clear. Everyone is a client. In other words, everyone has access to our services. But the kinds of things that folks can come to On Track WNC for are things like budgeting 101, money visioning. What do you want? Once you have some sense of the money that you have, what do you want to do with it? What are your values? What are your goals around that? Also buying a home. That's a really hot topic in this area. So we have classes for buying a home. We offer things like credit awareness days, where we offer once a quarter an opportunity for folks to come and get a free credit report with a FICO score on it and actually have a short counseling session to go through that credit report and learn more about their credit right in that moment. We have a savings match program. I shouldn't have favorites, but it's one of my favorite things we do, where folks can actually create an emergency savings plan by doing a series of classes and doing some counseling. They can actually put aside a small amount of money, and if they complete the courses, they wind up getting it matched $4 to the $1 they put aside, up to a cap of just over $1,000. So that's huge and game changing for folks. When they have a car issue or they need to do something around their house, they now have that emergency savings. We also do counseling. So you can come to a class, but you can also just have one-on-one time with a counselor and work through specific issues you have or questions you have about your money. And lastly, we're also a VITA tax site. So here we are in that moment of taxes. We're one of those places that folks can come and have their taxes done for free.
And in terms of these services, are there any financial limitations or restrictions, or who are they open to?
For the most part, open to everyone. Amanda, why don't you talk about some of those details?
If you would.
Yeah, our education and individual counseling is open to anyone, and all of those services are free with the exception of one course. Our homebuyer education course does have a small fee. It's $50 to $100 depending on whether you take it online, and that course is required by some mortgage lenders. Our VITA free tax preparation program and our secure emergency savings program that Melinda mentioned, those do have an income limit. As you can imagine, they're quite popular, and we want to be sure that we're supporting in the households in Western North Carolina that could appreciate a boost the most. And so you can check our website at ontrackwnc.org, look up those programs under the What We Do tab, and you can check the income eligibility if you or someone you know might be interested.
Now, talk, Amanda, about the fact that people can take them in person. We'll talk about that versus some of them are offered virtually as well.
Yeah, that's right. If there was any silver lining to the COVID pandemic, it was that it helped us get up and over the digital hurdle and allowed us to have more ways to connect with folks in our region. So our offices are located in downtown Asheville on South French Broad Avenue, and we offer courses in person. We offer live classes, just like the three of us are doing today on Zoom. And then we offer on-demand classes, which are available on our website 24/7. And we're especially glad that those digital options are available because so many folks are busy, they've got work, childcare commitments, or they might not be right in the Asheville hub part of Western North Carolina and still want to connect with us. So we're glad to be able to meet folks in those three different ways. And then also for our individual sessions, we can also do that by good old-fashioned phone call if that works best.
Okay. Or also, aside from a phone call, can they come in to see you? Is that
That's
option?
right. The individual sessions can be Zoom, in person, or phone.
Okay. And so it's incredible that people should take advantage of the opportunity, but some people are still reluctant, I guess, I guess it's part of the problem, to admit that they have a problem. In other words, that it sort of can be embarrassing, I guess, some people saying that you need help or you're in a hole. That's, I guess, where you guys come in as well to get people over that hurdle.
Yeah, I think the one word that comes to my mind is money shame. There's so much shame in our society about how we are or aren't managing our money. I always say when I meet with folks on Track, this is a shame-free zone because we really believe that we want to meet you with wherever you are at today, talk about where you'd like to be headed and how we can partner with you to get there. And so the feedback that we get consistently year in and year out was this was a non-judgmental space. They really saw and understood me and my life and my values. And they really gave me practical guidance and suggestions. But at the end of the day, our clients know that it's their plan, it's their life, it's their decisions. We're just there to be a partner. So I think that speaks a little bit to the way in which we show up for our community members. We're not here to wag any fingers. We're not here to place any blame or shame. We're just here to walk alongside you along the journey. And I don't know about you all, but I'm always glad when somebody's willing to be my companion. We need it.
Well, let me ask a question then, if I can, Melinda, having to do with sharing the shame, or I like how you said it. Part of the problem, I imagine, though, is not only in terms of people who are embarrassed, but it comes up too that they're embarrassed to discuss some of this even with their spouse or significant other. You know, is that something that comes up, that people need help, but they don't want the other person to know that that help? Is that a problem?
I can actually take that question too, because before I was a program director, I was a financial counselor for many years. And so I have sat in a room with folks who are experiencing those types of issues. And you could say, you know, partner, spouse, father, sister, child, it could be all sorts of things. And as one of my colleagues from years ago would say, those are typically the topics for family and marital counseling. And honey, we're not that kind of counselor. And so we also are very careful to stay in our lane. Our lane is to talk about that vision for your money life, those goals and specific steps that can help you get there. But we also really rely on the rich network of other providers that are in Western North Carolina. And whether that's something like a mental health counseling service, or, you know, go to another end. The 211 resource line is a very popular referral because folks are often looking for food assistance or utility assistance, or with money. Another place that it tends to get sort of tangled up is the legal aspect. And so Pisgah Legal Services is a big partner that we refer to for guidance on the legal implications of specific money choices. So I think that's how we navigate that. We try to really be supportive of the whole person, the whole family, but we also very much try to stay within our scope of expertise and rely on the network of other providers in the region.
Melinda, let me ask you then, in terms of staying in your own lane. I love how you said that. But there's another issue come up, that some people are so out of it that they want to go bankrupt. Do people come to you saying, you know, they can't possibly get ahead of the game, they just go to bankruptcy? Is that an option, or is that ever discussed?
Can take that one too,
Yeah.
again, just
Okay.
because that's my bread and butter from
Okay.
my days as a debt counselor. We look at a wide variety of options. And one thing that I love about our model is that we're not going to give one size fits all advice. You know, Blaine, if you had a money question, I might give you one piece of advice. And if Melinda had a money question, I might give her a different piece of advice, because your situations are different. And so with the topic of bankruptcy, in fact, we talk about it as a legal pathway. We see that for folks who are in some type of permanent situation where maybe they faced a hardship like a disability, death in the family, job loss, death of a spouse, and they find themselves suddenly in a situation where debts are completely unaffordable and there's not going to be a rebound to make them affordable. Again, that's where we would refer to our partners over at Pisgah Legal Services to talk about the legal implications. But for a lot of people, bankruptcy, although it has a pretty bad rap in our society, it is a legally available pathway. And for so many folks, it can get them out of the constant churn and struggle of trying to keep up, but not really having the means with which to get there. And we like to see folks succeed. So anytime I can recommend something that might be a way to get unstuck, that's going to be on the top of my list of recommendations. And like I said, though, at the end of the day, it's always the individual's choice, because none of us has to live in someone else's shoes. And we want to be sure that options folks are pursuing really are a good fit for their life, their values, their situation.
And talk about, folks, if you would, the things that you do in terms of reaching out to the community. So we've already talked a little bit about your online, your computer, you can take workshops and whatnot. In terms of how do people find out about each of these things? What's the best bet? Go to the website?
Yeah, definitely. So we have a really strong web presence. So definitely go to our website, which is ontrackwnc.org. But we're also on Facebook. So you can look up On Track Financial Education and Counseling and find us on Facebook. And we're also on LinkedIn because we have really strong partnerships in the community and across the region and with funders. So we really like to keep up, even on LinkedIn, with what folks are doing. Because again, as Amanda put so beautifully, we have this expertise and this offer to folks across Western North Carolina, and yet we don't do all the things. And so how can we make sure that we're helping support and resource in a variety of ways? One of the ways we do that is being able to shift somebody towards a strong partner. So we keep up with them just as much as we hope clients will keep up with us online.
And so if folks are going online, do you recommend the best way to pick up this information? In other words, or it's different people, you were saying different strokes for different folks. Some people, I guess, do well with online. Some people do well in person. Is there any best way you recommend to people that they should work with you folks?
Yeah, I think online is really nice. You can access it from your phone or your computer, and there you can see all of our services. So in that sense, it's really nice because it's just a couple of taps and all of a sudden you have access to all of the different classes. You can make a counseling appointment session, etc. But certainly we're available for anybody that actually wants to come in and, be across from another human being and say, help me navigate this. How do I do it? How do I do the intake? How do I get an appointment set up? And so if that's the case, you can come visit us. We're at 50 South French Broad. We're on the second floor of the United Way building, and our office hours are from 8:30 to 5, Monday through Thursday. We do have closed offices on Friday. So folks can come and check in with Becky or Giselle at our front desk. They're both amazing. And we can help. We also have Spanish speakers often on site. So if somebody feels most comfortable speaking Spanish, we can also help support them in that way.
The nice thing too, they can make an appointment to come in as opposed to just walking up the street. Is that what you
Oh,
recommend?
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would recommend making an appointment just because that gives you an opportunity to sort of, again, pick and choose, think about what you want to do, but you can come right in and we can get you set up for that appointment.
Do people come, sometimes they just walk in off the street? Does that happen?
I think that happened a lot pre-pandemic. I think as everybody got a lot more savvy and comfortable digitally, we see a little bit less of that, but we still have people coming in. Fortunately, again, we're in downtown Asheville and we're in the United Way building, so we're really easy to find, and we have lots of wonderful partners in that building as well. So naturally, we just have traffic, folks coming in and asking questions and setting up appointments.
If you would talk about something that's coming up through you folks on May 30th. I know you have something coming up on that date. What's happening?
We do. So on May 30th, which is a Thursday, we have our big annual event. And essentially, it's our client celebration. This is our opportunity to bring folks together, clients, supporters, expert on-track employees, to come together and celebrate client stories. It's called the On-Track WNC Toast and Boast Client Celebration. And why? Because we are toasting and boasting about all of their success. And most importantly, we want them to boast about their success. They tell us all the time all the amazing things they're doing around their, credit management or even the ability to buy a home. And so now we want to create a night where folks are coming around and hearing some of those stories. It's at Highland, at the Event Center in Highland. You can get a ticket at ontracwnc.org. But I think one of the things I'm most excited about with the Toast and Boast that I just have to share, I have to boast about, is that we're making it a really interactive evening. So not only can you just be at Highland and, sit around and have a libation with the people that are there, which is really fun, but we have what we're calling inspiration stations. Folks can actually move around the space and engage in different ways in which we support our community, actually talk to an expert on-track employee about some of the work they're doing. So you're not just sitting back at the event and listening to everybody, you're actually moving around the space and talking with folks that are actually in the work. So we're really excited about it. We hope folks will come. It's from 5 to 7 p.m., May 30th.
And to get tickets, what's best bet?
Yeah, you can go right to our website, which is ontracwnc.org.
Now you mentioned at this event, they're going to get a chance to meet one-on-one with people. If you would, give me an example or a couple of examples of success stories that people have worked with you folks, and you can name private, that's okay, but what's an example of what you see as a success story?
Actually brought two tonight because success stories are why I do this work. Being able to watch how folks take the information and conversation we have together and move forward with it. So one was a young man I met with recently who had started his career as a young professional, but decided to switch careers into a field where he was going to be able to increase his earning potential. And he had worked with us probably 4 or 5 times at On Track over the last few years. And this time he said, I'm coming to On Track because I want to be ahead of this. I want to make a plan before I make this career shift. I want to think about what I'm going to be earning, what I'm going to be spending, any debts I might have, and just have a plan in place from the get-go. And at first, that didn't seem too remarkable. I thought, great idea. Good job to plan ahead. But we sat together and he looked back and he said, the first time I ever came here, I couldn't face my money. I wasn't able to have this conversation about what was going on with my counselor. And I'm so proud of how far I've come because now I'm not only facing my money today, I'm making plans for the future. And that is what it's all about. Another success story of a recent family was a single dad who had the dream of buying a home for himself and his kids. And he started on that dream several years ago, but got waylaid by the COVID pandemic and all the economic impacts throughout those years. But he came back to us early last year and within about 10 months was able to build credit score, pay down debt, save for a down payment, and last fall bought his first home for himself and his children. And so being able to bear witness and walk alongside folks who are achieving those types of things, that's what it's all about.
And probably very exciting is the fact that some of these people, as you kind of indicated, probably had no idea this could ever be possible, that they own their own home. Can you imagine? Well, do some people, I guess, very exciting also. Do you see that when they work with you, they actually get out of debt? Do you see that happening?
Yeah, we were just talking about this today. We're working on tracking some hard metrics and data that will demonstrate that long-term impact. But absolutely, that's what we're hearing anecdotally as folks are telling stories. We're seeing folks paying down debt. We're seeing folks buying homes. We're seeing folks build credit score, have a successful budget plan, and build savings. And the other thing I was just telling Melinda about today is, as we all face setbacks in life, and our finances are often a place where that shows up. So global pandemic comes along and puts the economy on the rocks. That may show up in our finances. It's not necessarily an indicator of anything we've done. A death, a divorce, a job loss, a disability, all of these things can show up in our financial lives too. And so while we're both focused on the long-term impacts and outcomes, we're also focused on habits because finances are made up of a series of day after day after day habits. None of us wakes up one day and says, oh, I became a homeowner overnight. It was a series of very small actions that we took to get there. And that's what we want folks in our region to build is those strong financial habits so that no matter what life throws their way, the good, the bad, we hope it's more good than bad, they will be prepared with strong habits around assessing their budget, their savings, their credit, their debt, and their housing stability.
Let me put you on the spot because you kind of alluded to it. You talked about the strong habits that people need to get in habit. If you would, give me one such habit.
Saving money every month, every paycheck. I don't care if it's $1, $5, $25, $50. You could start a habit today or tomorrow and then use that to build on it. That'd be the number one thing I would recommend that I see as such a game changer for so many folks who are participating in on-track programs. You mentioned, gosh, how proud is it that folks buy a home? I've seen pride that might be even bigger by folks who said, I started saving money. I never thought that was possible in my life, but through your programs, you helped me develop that habit, and I'm going to continue it for the rest of my life.
And listening to you reminds me of my teaching days, in that I would come across students and just incredible what they would do in terms of, having all sorts of credit card debt, but not paying it off, instead putting money in savings. In other words, they'd have all this money on credit card debt and it was getting worse and worse. If they just started taking a little out of their savings account and paying off some of that, it was just incredible. But people never knew that, and just all the time you'd see it and it would be, amazing. A kid once told me bought a tire and he was paying it off 3 years later, because
Yeah.
he couldn't pay the minimum payment. He could have paid it, but he didn't pay the minimum payment. So he wanted to keep money in savings. And, it was like 3 times what the tire cost. 3 years later, didn't have the car anymore. But again, basic stuff, nobody ever teaches them or teaches people.
Yeah. Blaine,
Exactly.
oh, sorry, Amanda. I was just going to say, but you're reminding me of the thing that I think I would pick is like a number one thing, and you're sort of speaking to it, which is one of the things we talk about are money dates. And tonight we've talked about money shame, and just now you were talking about here's this whole thing happening in this person's financial landscape. Are they paying attention? Are they seeing
Right.
it? Money dates would be the habit that I would encourage people to do, because that has you sitting down once a week. For example, say it's every Thursday at 4 o'clock, I'm going to have my money date. I'm going to look through my finances. I'm going to check my bank account. I'm going to look at that interest rate on that credit card. And all of a sudden, you're sort of inoculating against that shame and that fear. And you're really facing your money in a way that is required in order for you to get a hold of it, to get in charge of it. Right. So I would encourage a money date. And I think that young man with that credit card with a money date could have seen really quickly, maybe I should be putting some money towards this direction versus that direction.
By the way, I love the concept in the name of it, money date. Is this something as people in a relationship or couples, should they be doing this together or what's the way to do it?
Great question.
Absolutely. If they budget and use money together, I'd recommend they do a money date together. And, like I said, I'm not a marriage or family counselor, but one tip I developed over the years for couples is to build a positive collaboration around money. And sometimes what that might look like is spend 5 minutes together a week to talk about what's going well with your money, or where would you both dream for your money life to go. Money can be so stressful, especially with jobs and families and work schedules, and oh no, we got sick and the cat had to go to the vet and all sorts of different things. But trying to find some positive ground when things are stressful with money can be super helpful. And another one that I love is thinking about what strengths does my partner bring to the table when it comes to money? Because it can be all too easy for us to point the finger and say what we wish our partner did differently when it comes to money. But most of us bring some sort of strength. And so, if in the relationship, there's often a spender and a saver. And both of those are important in life. So recognizing what your partner might be bringing to the table that can help you bring your money situation into balance.
I never had an answer to this when I was younger, but what do you folks recommend or individually about, say, for example, checking accounts or savings accounts? Should they be joint, or what's your feeling about individuals having their own accounts? Good or bad idea?
We don't have a one size fits all answer at all. I would say whatever works.
Yeah.
Whatever works, and that you're actually going to use the system.
Point well taken. What if you're going to use it? But how do you know it works? In other words, we talked before, you get out of high school, you never had any of this taught. You're in a relationship, you never had any of this taught. And all of a sudden you come together, you have to have a financial marriage, I guess, or financial tie-in. That must be tough sometimes to develop for couples, the very first time they have to do that.
Well, I think that's where that weekly money date that Melinda mentioned comes in, because that gives you a time to check in and kind of say, like, hey, how's this working? Like, were you able to do what you needed to do with the finances this week? Was I able to do what I needed to do this week? Are we on target to meet our goals as a family? And if not, you can make some tweaks. So I think that's part of the system too, is that regular check-in. And especially when money is stressful, it can be like it's the only topic in the relationship. And the other reason I like those money dates is because if you're going to talk about money on Thursdays at 4, then all the rest of the week you can just enjoy being together. It's not to say it's going to take away all the stress, but it can at least give us a time and a place where we can talk about money and not feel like we have to be talking about it all the time, because I don't think that helps at all.
By the way, great recommendation. Thank you on your part. We hadn't talked about it yet, but what a great idea to do it once a week, or you were saying when they have a date on this, and then you can enjoy the other 6 days, or 6.5 days of the week. But what a great idea. In terms of last question, contacting On Track Financial Education Counseling, who do you say is the ideal person who should be in touch with you?
Mm,
A juicy question, Blaine.
yeah.
Aside from
Which
everybody
was-
watching this podcast, but anybody in particular should be thinking of contacting you?
Someone who wants to be doing something different with their money than what they're doing now. And our specific areas are around credit, budgeting and savings, debt, and housing. We've mentioned our home buyer program, but we also have a small foreclosure prevention program for folks who own a home and have a mortgage and are struggling. So if you're listening to this and you're saying, for one reason or the other, I'm not satisfied with where my money's at. It's too much of a struggle. It's too much of a more, what do they call it? More month than there is money. Or I can't seem to get my credit score to budge, or can't seem to build a savings for the life of me. Home ownership is beyond even a dream, can't even think about it. That's the type of situation where we'd love to come along, help you look at what's going on now, look at where you might like to be, start building that dream and that vision, and start taking some practical steps to make sure that you're stable, have a strong foundation in place, or building up to those kind of intermediate habits, and then long term achieving those dreams, because we all work so hard. We show up day in, day out, and it's important to realize dreams and have a little fun with our money along the way.
And the nice thing I see about the service you're offering folks is that in terms of people having to pay for it, there's most of it's at no charge for people.
That's right.
So take advantage of it when you have the opportunity. Wrap up, Melinda. If folks want to get in touch with you folks again, if you would give the website, the address, all that good stuff, best way to reach you is what?
Yeah, best way is through our website, ontracwnc.org. You can make an appointment through there. Our phone number's on there. If you want to talk to somebody directly, you can go and check it out. All of our services are listed. The Toast and Boast information is listed if you're interested in attending our event, which we hope you will. You can learn about our counselors and educators. You can actually read the bios of all those folks. If you're curious, who am I going to be talking to? What is this person all about? And sort of dispel some of those fears or anxieties. You can find that on the website. And then, of course, you can always come see us in downtown Asheville. We're in the United Way building, right on South French Broad, 50th South French Broad Avenue. And then lastly, I would say find us on social media. We're on Facebook, and just plug right into that search on Facebook, On Track Financial Education and Counseling, and we will pop right up, as well as on LinkedIn.
And lastly, I don't know if it's ever happened, but I'm just curious. Have you ever had anybody who came to take classes or to work with you folks and then come back either as a volunteer or even better, have any of the people ever come back to work for you folks? Has that ever happened?
Blaine, you're asking my favorite question. That's why Amanda's laughing.
No, just
That
curious.
feels like a setup, and yet it was totally organic, folks. For all you viewers, this is an organic moment. One of my favorite things to talk about, and I didn't say it tonight, which is why Amanda's laughing. As a new executive director, one of the things I've been most proud of and most impressed by is that most of our employees, most of our staff, those folks that you're going to be meeting with, have been clients of On Track.
Oh, is that cool? Yeah.
Yeah, because again, almost everyone needs this kind of work. We all need to learn those wonderful skills. And these are folks that have done a class or gone through counseling or have accomplished some sort of goal. And they were so inspired, impressed, moved, enthusiastic that when a position popped up, boy, they were one of our first applicants. And so it's a really proud thing for us to talk about. And it's, yeah, so many of our employees were clients at one point.
Okay, that really is cool. And it just has me shaking my head in the fact that it's too bad that people have to wait this long to pick up these skills. It's too bad we didn't pick them up a lot earlier in life. Anyway, I'd like to thank you, Melinda Bullen and Amanda Hunsucker, for being my guests on this edition of the Blaine's World webcast. I'd also like to thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti, and hopefully we'll bump into each other sometime in the future, folks. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Blaine.